Ladies, can we please talk about Betty Broderick for just a couple of minutes? Okay, do y'all remember Betty Broderick, crazy Betty Broderick, the one who shot and killed her ex-husband, Dan Broderick, and his wife, Linda Kolkena, back in La Jolla, California?
There was never a single night I put my head on the pillow and knew I'd have a roof over my head. That house was in Dan's name. The car was in Dan's name. I had no flow of money that was guaranteed by anybody. It was just a little here or a little there or whatever Dan felt like. And I felt absolutely victimized. I felt like any time he wanted to just jerk me around, he'd just do that, and I was tied to the end of the string with him, and he did that, and my life went like that.
This is a woman that was known as probably one of the most famous divorcees involved in murder because she was railroaded pretty much by her husband. I mean, she was married a long time. She met her husband, a classic case of a woman scorned, married young, good Catholic girl. She met Dan Broderick right out of college, going on to become, wanted to be a doctor and then eventually a lawyer, malpractice lawyer. So Betty, was in it for the long haul, Tupperware parties and little daycares she was running out of her home and having multiple pregnancies and a lot of kids, pretty much, with this man, and basically gave up any dreams of her own career to support this fabulous future that Dan Broderick had. So here's where it went wrong, and where it goes wrong for a lot of women in the world is, you sacrifice your young years and your youth, and you climb the ladder with your husband. And what happens when they reach about 40, 41, 42? It's the good old classic midlife crisis, right? He's had a taste of success. He has a taste of money. And now he looks at his wife as washed up goods, right? She's had babies. She might have put on some weight. Life is not fun and sexy anymore. So what do? They go and they look for somebody younger to trade you in for. And that is what happened to Betty. But Betty went an extra step and murdered her husband and his new younger wife that he had cheated on her with. And she killed them. Now, the majority of women that this happens to do not go on to kill their ex. They just don't. They move on and they say that sucks and they move on, right? So ladies, this episode is for you, and men too. I would love for you to watch because maybe you'll learn something that, marriage is for life and you took vows and we're supposed to grow old gracefully together, and we're not supposed to go gallivanting off in the sunset with some 20-something-year-old girl because she's hot and she makes you feel good about yourself and she doesn't have kids and cake batter hanging off her head when you get home from work. So I want to ask you guys, do you think Betty Broderick has served enough time? And that I mean this in a very serious way, because there are cold-hearted killers out there that they're in for life. They should be in for life. However, there is mitigating circumstances here. Should she have gone to jail? Absolutely. And I have a problem with the fact that Betty Broderick really doesn't show much remorse. I mean, hello, a sorry would go a long way, sweetheart. But she has not said sorry. So that's a problem for me.
Remorseful about what? About my entire family and life being destroyed? Yeah, I'm real remorseful about... I have nothing left in life. Mm-hmm. And the family was all I cared about. So I'm very sorry that my entire family was destroyed, but I don't think my family was destroyed on November 5th, 89. My family was destroyed before that.
To you, what happened November 5th, 89?
I stopped it all. It ended. I mean, it just was over. Dan Broderick is the one who said it would never be over until one of us was gone. Well, it's over now.
But aside from her not showing any remorse and asking for forgiveness, are there mitigating circumstances, considering everything she went through, that grants her maybe, a get out of jail free card right now? I mean, she's been in there a long time. I think it's like 30 years now. And I'm just really curious, like, what you ladies think and what you men think. I'm sure the majority of men are going to be like, burn her at the stake. But honestly, I mean, he gaslighted her. He gaslighted her too through the whole marriage. I mean, telling her she was crazy, calling her fat, making up like scenarios.
I was suffering terribly from the effects of the tremendous and relentless stress of the situation that I was in. I was in great pain. I was suffering. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't function. I was terrified of what was happening and what was going on. And I felt helpless and defenseless at that time to prevent it or make it stop or to defend myself.
I want to know what you guys think. I want the comments below. I want to hear what you all have to say about this, because Betty was railroaded. Betty was railroaded. It might be time for her to come out. She was driven to insanity. I do believe that. I believe this woman was like, everything was coming unhinged for her. And the way this man treated her was so, so wrong. I mean, it's just so wrong on so many levels. But is she really a danger to society? I don't think so. But anyway, I want to play a little bit of Betty talking back in the day. Okay, take a listen.
I didn't have a plan. I gave up on life. I didn't want to live anymore. Why don't you read what it says on that paper? Why don't you read the letter so everyone can see what that letter says? That obviously her mental disease and emotional whatever has not... It's a horrible letter. And they're threatening jail and they're threatening fines and bull. At this stage of the game, they're not going to let me speak to my sons. What did Dan and Linda have to gain from not letting me speak to my sons? They were just me over and I couldn't stand it another minute and I had no plan. I died when I wrote that stuff. I wanted to die and I have no plan. I just wanted to just die. That's it. And that's the end of the story.
Okay, she does come off a little crazy there, right? She does. But can people be driven to that point? She was a well-educated, good girl. She only, she didn't sleep around. She fell in love with Dan. She dedicated her whole life to him. And, he wasn't coming home anymore at night. He was drinking. He was making jokes at her all the time. And then it got to be real cruel. And then he told her that it was all in her head, that he was out with other women or Linda. He just said, you're absolutely crazy. And you get that over and over and over again. And you're like, I'm home with these kids. I'm raising these kids. I'm the one that helped you. Like, without Betty, he would not have been able to climb to the top the way he did. You need a good woman behind you, guys. You do. You need a woman that is going to be there for you and raise your children and support you and work those, part-time jobs while you're going to law school or while you're going through trade school or wherever it is that you're going to do in your life. You need a good woman to help you with that. And she did all that. She did all that. And he totally screwed her over. I mean, I just... There's value in what Betty did. A lot of times people will be like, oh, well, if there's only one person bringing home the money, well, he's the one who does everything. Let me tell you something. Being a mother and raising kids and cooking and keeping house is a full-time job. It's a full-time job, and Betty did it, like, better than anybody. I mean, if you've watched the trial on her, all the women, friends of hers, and even some men, they got up and they testified that she was the best. She was the best mother. She raised those kids so well. She was good with children. She like, read to them at night. She baked cookies with them. She planned trips with them. She was an incredible mother. Why shouldn't she be completely crushed and angry that all of a sudden one day you find out that he's sleeping with his secretary? That is some serious betrayal on a man's part to do that after so many years. And mind you, she had miscarriage after miscarriage. This woman was pregnant all the time for like 15 years. She was constantly pregnant. And what her body went through, what a woman's body goes through. Okay. And then mentally, not feeling pretty anymore, not feeling like you are special or that you are attractive to your husband anymore. She even went as far as wanting to get plastic surgery for him because she thought he didn't find her interesting anymore. I don't know. Here's a little more of her.
I went into the room to talk to them or to wake them up or something, and they moved and I moved and it was over.
What did you do? What's the first thing you remember? Do you remember pulling the trigger?
No, I remember the noise of the gun.
And how many times do you remember the gun going off?
I remember the real loud noise 5 times.
Okay. So those who know the case, do you think when she drove over there, she woke up that morning, was just like zombie in a haze, brought the gun in her purse for protection, as she said, went over there, went into the house simply to talk to him, to get him to negotiate with her, to get him to come to some sort of agreement with her so that she could get her life back and her sanity back? And that in return, they woke up, it all happened so fast, she was startled, and she pulled the trigger. Do you think that was her intention? Or do you think she literally woke up and said, I'm going over there to kill him? And if you think that, either or, whichever choice you have, do you have compassion and understanding for the fact that she did that? Because of everything this man put her through. I am very divided on how I feel about this, but I think I keep going back and forth, right? I don't think Dan and Linda should be dead. It's wrong. You don't kill somebody. You don't do that. Do I understand as a female how she felt? Maybe. Maybe a little bit I do. I know that I would never go and do something like that. I know that I couldn't do that, but I could be stronger than I think. And maybe she was just beaten down so much. I wish she hadn't done it. I do believe that she belonged in prison, that she needed to serve her time. But there's a part of me that thinks if we can just get her to apologize, that maybe it's time for her to come out. Thank you for watching. I so appreciate you all. Please hit the subscribe button, like, share, turn your notifications on, and join me next time.